Today we're going to discuss the subconscious and some techniques for freeing the subconscious from various negative emotions or blockages which prevent our happiness today. What we have seen throughout the years is that each of us is in some way like a split personality to some degree. That is, we have a conscious self which is quite clear that we are worthy, that we are capable, that we are safe in the world. And a conscious self which does not see reason for us to fear or become angry or to become hurt in situations or to become jealous in situations. But there seems to be another part of ourselves, which we'll call the subconscious or the inner child, which seems to have another way of feeling, another way of reacting to situations. At some point in the development of our childhood years, we began to realize that there were some feelings which it was better not to expose to other people, because they might reject us, we may become more vulnerable, we did not get a positive reaction from them. And so gradually we chose to stop showing some emotions. However, we didn't stop feeling those emotions. They are created and they are in us, but we started creating a separation between what we call the shadow and the mask. Okay? Now, we started to put into the shadow, all of our negative feelings, all of our fears, even some of our needs. If we found that there was no response to any of our needs, then we began to cover up those needs and not express them, because if we expressed them, we might be rejected. And if we were rejected, then we would feel unworthy. So we have learned to suppress into our subconscious mind feelings which we don't want to show to others, feelings which are very painful to us and which we don't want to feel. So rather than feel them, we sort of suppress them so that we don't feel them. Needs which we either consider improper needs, or needs which will not be respected, or needs which make us seem vulnerable or weak to other persons, such as the need for love, the need for affection, the need for attention. And we gradually stop expressing these needs and stop expressing these emotions. So on the one hand, we have stored in our subconscious many feelings and many needs. Also, we have stored there various positive emotions, because at some point perhaps we learned not to express our positive emotions, such as our love or our affection or our respect for some people, because perhaps we got into an antagonistic relationship or a competitive relationship. And we thought, well, if I express how much I admire this person, then that's going to go to his ego. And if I recognize that he is right or she is right sometimes, then that also. Also, men learn not to support women as much as women learn to support men. And men also learn not to express so much their positive feelings, especially if it has to do with affection or love and these kinds of feelings. So we have in the subconscious fears, other emotions, needs, desires, and even positive emotions and feelings. Another part of ourselves which often gets blocked into the subconscious is our creativity. Because we have virtually unlimited creative potential within us, but perhaps because at some point in our lives we were laughed at or rejected in some creative endeavor, we block that whole process and start saying, well, I can't sing, I can't dance, I can't draw. And we tend to create a life in which we remain only in what is familiar to us. And so our creativity becomes blocked. So gradually a separation is created between the conscious and the subconscious, between the shadow and the mask. And we put into the shadow anything that hurts us, anything that we don't want other people to see, and anything which we cannot accept ourselves. And we put into the mask everything that we believe we must have in order to get what we want from other people. So I could put into my mask the yes person, the person that always says yes and never says no, because I believe that I will lose people's love if I ever say no, that they won't love me anymore. I couldn't put in my mask the good person, the strong person, so that no one ever sees my weaknesses. On the other hand, I can put in my mask the weak person, because I believe that if I am weak or ill or I have problems, then other people will pay attention to me. Or I can put in my mask this very hard, angry person, because I believe then I can keep them away from me and protect myself. So each of us puts into his or her mask what we believe we need to put in order to protect ourselves and get what we want from the people around us. This is very similar to what we mentioned already about the roles of the Celestine prophets. Now, if you'd like to look at page 103 of your workbook, we see here a work that you could do concerning the shadow and the mask. This also corresponds to page 159 of the Greek workbook. We see here a diagram in which we have this like tunnel which comes down, and we have a mask at the end of the tunnel, and behind the mask we have the subconscious, and behind the subconscious we have the higher self, and behind the higher self we have the spirit. The idea here is that, okay, we show one part of ourselves to the world around us, or other people show to us one part of themselves. We're on page 103. Behind that, however, there is this whole subconscious world which we are not expressing. And behind that subconscious world is our higher self, our soul or spirit, which has very positive spiritual qualities. The problem is that usually on this path we need to go through the subconscious and clean up the subconscious. This is called catharsis, to clean up the subconscious in order to get in touch with the higher self and to be actually one person. Otherwise, we are going to be one person who is reasonable, who is clear, who is peaceful, who is loving, but we're going to have this other part of ourself which is still fearing, still hurting, still angry, or in some way blocked or obstructed, you see. So the whole purpose here of this work of catharsis is being able to gradually clean up or clean out the subconscious in this way, so that the work that we do on the conscious level does not create this split personality syndrome, which we see in many spiritual people. That is, people who have obtained much knowledge, they've read many books, they've done many seminars, and they could teach very well all the spiritual truths. But when you touch their buttons, they get angry, they get fearful, they feel jealous, they are egocentric, you see. So in order to avoid this split personality syndrome on the spiritual path, we at Harmonic Jesuit, at least, believe that we need to do work also in cleaning the subconscious. Now, we're not going to do that work in this seminar. I'm just explaining to you what you can do. We have special weekend and summer seminars in which you stay in our retreat center and do this work, because it's not something that you can do and then go home and face your family and face your work. It's something that you need to have time and space for these things to come out and heal. So we do a 10-day seminar, an 8-day seminar. We also do a 2-day seminar on working on bringing these things up. It's not something that can be done in 2 hours. It needs quite a few hours to work on. Now, these are some questions here, however, that you can begin this process with, at least intellectually. What have you covered in your shadow for others not to see? So what are those parts of yourselves which you prefer for others not to see? Your fears, your desires, your needs, your anger, your hurt, your jealousy, your love, your admiration, your strength, your weakness. I've heard some women say, I can't show my strength to my husband because he has a problem with it. Okay? So we could even hide positive parts of ourselves. Okay? Secondly, what do you believe must appear in your mask so that you will accept and so others will accept and love you? How do you want the others to perceive you and describe you? Okay, so what is it that you think you have to have in your mask in order to be accepted, loved, or respected by the people around you? Now let's look at these questions down below. Active listening for the shadow and the persona, the mask. The shadow. What is it that exists in your shadow which you have difficulty to share with others or accept in yourself? For each of these, which are the beliefs which stop you from sharing or accepting these aspects of yourself? What do you believe about your fear, or your anger, or your jealousy, or your desire, or your love, or your respect, which makes you find it difficult to show that? Number 3, what are the childhood experiences or messages which have created in your subconscious or conscious mind these beliefs which cause you to hide these aspects of yourself? What did you experience in the past which made it painful for you? What caused you to come to the conclusion that I must not show weakness, or I must not show fear, or anger, or disagreement, or I must never say no, or whatever that may be? I heard a woman this weekend in the seminar we did, and she says, I have difficulty saying yes. And now analyzing it, she realized that saying yes meant being controlled. So she kept the no in her mouth. She was a no person, you see. She thought she was protecting her freedom by being able to say always no. Whereas other people believe that they're always going to be loved by always saying yes. So we have all kinds of ways in which we react to realities. We have to see our way of reacting. And the 4th question is, what do you want to do about your shadow? Is there anything in your shadow that you would like to bring to the surface in order to be more truthful? Because when we have relationships, then people, and we have the shadow and the mask, and we keep up the shadow and the mask in the relationship, then that person doesn't have a relationship with us. That person has a relationship with the mask. And this is why usually we let go of the shadow and the mask when we're with our very close, in a very close relationship. That means having a close relationship. Otherwise, you really can't talk about a close relationship in which you're keeping up the mask and the shadow. Of course, you're going to keep it up with the taxi driver, with your distant friends, perhaps. But the wonderful thing would be to be able to be ourselves totally in every situation.